Hey, thanks for joining Sales with Suli, a mom of three who spent the last 12 summers knocking doors. Welcome to my podcast where I talk about all things women, the ups and downs of my journey, and what it takes to find success on and off the doors. Enjoy this episode. Hey friends, welcome back to this week's episode. I'm super stoked for someone that we are going to be having on the show today. She actually just makes me a little bit nervous. I feel like I'm just like super sweaty that she's just like way too cool to be here with me. But I'm kind of excited. Her name is Alex Hogan Hall. Where does the Hogan and Hall come from? Or is that all like one last name? Or do you have your maiden and your...
I am in the process of finally switching my name. My 1-year anniversary was literally yesterday, and it is still not actually legally switched. But everyone knows me as Hogan. I've been Hogan for so long, so I'm not fully ready to give up Hogan. So I'm kind of using both. Got
it. Sometimes I kind of tell the hubby that I think that he should have kept my last name because it's cooler. Like Zinc as opposed to, I mean, Ikahihifo as opposed to Zinc. But yeah, he's just like, so I get the whole Hogan Hall thing. But I mean, wasn't it frustrating when you guys were like purchasing things that you have to like sign Alex Hogan Hall and...
Oh, I'm all over the place right now. Yeah, I'm like Hogan on all my legal docs, but I'm like pretending that I'm Hall all the way. So, Brandon, if you're listening to this, I will eventually change my name. I promise.
I love it. But thanks for joining me. I'm just the things that I've just kind of like seen and hear you do just in the door-to-door space. I'm stoked to be able to just share like some of your nuggets just with women who are coming into the industry. And I honestly didn't even know until just sitting here that you are more on like the administrative side, which is like exciting to hear your story of how you climbed the ladder. And I feel like a lot of times, and I know that this is something that I'm trying to desperately disprove, is for women in this space that the only way that they're going to be getting up the ladder is basically, okay, being friends with this person, or they were basically just handed it or given or whatever. But from your story, it just sounds like you totally just made your way literally from the bottom to the top. And I kind of just want you to just share like a synopsis on where you started as far as like how you got into the door-to-door space, and then what are some of the positions that you went through, or some of the hard things that you had to overcome to kind of get to the position that you're at now.
Yeah, sure. Well, Sully, thanks for having me. I am also slightly sweaty in your presence, so
at least you have a tank top on so you can air it out.
That was the plan. That was the strategy. But yeah, so I got started doing solar back in 2015, that spring, so pretty early on. And I'd gotten into it because I cared a lot about the environment, and my degree was in marine bio, so nothing to do with sales. But I got out of school, couldn't find a job in my field.
Girl.
Yeah, but I loved, I used to knock doors to get petitions signed for solar down in Florida near my school. So I was like, look, if I could do that, I could totally get paid to do this type of stuff. So got into sales, knocked doors. We were one of the first direct training classes for this company. So we didn't really have much training. My manager at the time was a pest control guy that didn't learn solar yet.
But did he give good trainings?
I never saw him in front of a room, honestly. You could tell he was like washed up and was like ready to get out. Was just like, well, I won't knock, but like I'll manage a team. So yeah,
I'll get things running. Got it.
Yep, one of those. So I never like shadowed anyone or anything, had to figure stuff out. But as you know, if girls are willing to persist in our space, you are eventually going to figure it out and you're going to kick some butt. So I did pretty well. I was one of the top reps on my team that summer. I was able to pay off my student loans, get my first car, get my first apartment, all that good stuff. And then
we're going to pause there a second because this is the part of door to door that I absolutely love, especially for women. Like, we're kind of like in a society where it's just like, in order to take care of ourselves, we need to be married, or we're going to be relying on someone to be able to take care of us. But seeing women like you and myself and just other women who are out there, like in the grind, basically doing what you got to do to pay off all the things that you did, like in one summer. In one summer, what all did you get rid of?
Oh my gosh, I got rid of a little over $30,000 of student loans.
That's awesome.
So that was, I mean, so huge for me because I thought I was going to be stuck with that for many, many years after school. And yeah, that's, I mean, one of my big passions these days too is like there's so many women out there that just aren't aware of how much control and ownership they can take over their financial freedom by getting into door to door. So I just think that's the biggest thing.
That's like my big, like, honestly, why I'm trying to just push more women into this space, because it's just like, a lot of us, like, we grow up and we see this picture of like, once we're married, our hubbies are going to take care of us. We're going to do all these things. And I'm sure a lot of people see those memes and it's just like, okay, your accomplishment is like marriage and kids and a family. But it's like, isn't it an accomplishment to be able to take care of yourself, be able to get out of debt, be able to invest and do those things as well? It's both definitions of success, not just waiting for someone to take care of it. So I wanted to make sure that I hit on that. And I love that you shared that you were able to do that in one summer.
Yeah. And I mean, I agree with that 100%. Like, I think most women too seem to have a little bit more of like a block around setting and hitting really high financial goals. A lot of us aren't directly motivated by making a ton of money. Normally it's like the lifestyle you might live if you do make that money. So a lot of times I see women seeing this, like there's this mental barrier that's keeping them from making really, really good money. But yeah, I'm hoping, you know, solar can be more and more of a vessel for people to get into that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, so you ended with, you were managed, or you were basically on a team, but now I want to know like what you're doing now and like what's your position and like how you got there.
Yeah, so I'll make this quick, but I shifted into a role internally at the company. At the time, it was just an admin role. But we didn't have any setup for, you know, how do we train reps? What's our onboarding process? What's our recruiting process and our competitions and our swag? So I started building out all of those kind of sales support little mini departments and was able to rise up, take a manager role, and then became the first and only female director for their sales squad at that company.
I love that, like, title, first female, like, director.
Yeah.
Anyways, keep going.
Yep.
I just like that.
Which ended up being a trend that followed me throughout. So I shifted over to Legacy Power, built out their setter-closer model. So same thing, very systems-based. How are we training these people? How do we track their numbers? How do we motivate them? How do we integrate their culture into that they already had there for their direct team? And same thing, only female director there as well.
Wow.
Transitioned into a position at Vivint Solar, and same kind of thing. I was one of the few female managers there, but was able to manage their sales marketing team and their $5 million budget for culture, which was really where I started putting the pieces together on, you know, why do we do certain things? Every company wants to and is willing to throw some money at least at motivating their sales reps to recruit and then retain top talent. But oftentimes you don't know why you're spending that or kind of what you're planning on doing. So I learned a lot about the psychology of it there. And then I transitioned into a role consulting for the industry. So I was an expert at D2D Experts and their COO over there. Got some public speaking under my belt, did D2D Con, all that good stuff. And then a few of our clients at the time that had all been in solar were interested in potentially getting into a merger. And so now I am the founder, chairwoman, and chief marketing officer for True Power, which is a merger between 3 of our previous clients that all came together.
And then, so did you come up with the name? Like, how did the name True come up, though?
Oh my gosh, good question. We were like stuck on this name for so long, but ultimately, like we care a lot about being more of this like final destination for like the no BS, no more fluff in the industry, no trying to backstab or whatever, all the weird drama you see in door to door. We just want to be that spot where people can feel really good about what they're doing, and it's built on honesty and authenticity.
And let's be honest, I mean, there's going to be drama. I just had this conversation with someone before I walked in here about how, like, you know, even my team is going to have a little bit of drama and different things that are going to be, it's inevitable in the door-to-door space. But I love that name, like just authenticity and wanting to just like not have BS. And one thing that I'm constantly like telling women and just like reps who are always just like shopping around or doing like a ton of things that they feel like other people are moving them to do, when it's just like, you honestly can be authentic. You can make the grass green wherever you are. Like, it does not matter which company that you're at. It doesn't matter which shirt you're wearing. We do not all need to be wearing the same shirt to be able to have green grass, like where we are at. And so like hearing that that's like your guys' motto, and like having those people like one-stop shop, like this is it, they're not going anywhere, because obviously at the end of the day, someone can go get paid more here or go get paid less here or whatnot, but just that line of like true power, you guys are there, like it's one-stop shop, and we're just going to make it work here. It doesn't matter like who's going to offer me this or who's going to do that, like we're going to make it work exactly where we are. And it sounds like it's what you guys are doing.
For sure. And that actually brought up, I read a book early on when I was doing my admin role called So Good They Can't Ignore You.
Yeah.
Which, like, have you read that book before?
No, but I'm going to write it down.
I mean, it's all about the principle of like, you can make your grass green, like you are in control of your future. So much of it is, instead of trying to figure out your purpose and then find a job that matches it, find your purpose in the job that you're in, and you're going to build this inherent value in the role that you're in, and you're just going to be able to surpass, whatever growth you would have seen otherwise, because you're building your success off of like this inherent like value system you're setting up.
Yeah.
So,
and I feel like you've done that because you're more of like the cultural side. Like you saw a niche that was needed in the space, and you like made it to where they needed to have you, as opposed to like vice versa. And I just like love it. So for those of you like women out there who, have wanted to be like CEOs or wanted to be like presidents, or not even like something big, or just wanted to be able to make a change or make a difference, like you need to start somewhere, like whether it's going to be on the administrative side, but we all started knocking doors. I feel like you didn't understand it or feel that was your purpose or calling until like first knocking your first door. So how many years did you like knock before you transitioned into that role?
So I knocked for about a year, and then just took referrals from my clients at night,
cool.
After work and stuff. And then, I mean, I'll still now go out and knock with my reps here or there.
Yeah.
I think it's really good. And in fact, my entire marketing team at True, everybody's knocked doors in the past. So everybody's approaching their job from understanding like the experience that people are going through out in the field.
I love it. And this is even like the administrative side. Like,
for sure.
I feel like that's super huge in this industry, is like sales reps and people in the office being able to like understand each other and what it's like actually going out there and finding our customers and having to knock doors and build communication skills and all the things that comes with just learning in door-to-door space. So thanks for sharing. But I did kind of want to ask you a couple of things. And so one, what are some of the things that you found being on a like male-dominated team was like a hindrance in your efforts of like finding success?
Ooh, okay. Possibly an unpopular opinion, but most of it was my own mindset.
Not unpopular.
So I would say it started out, and I've like given talks about how much I used to get hung up on the fact that I couldn't find mentorship. Like I felt like men like were repulsed by mentoring a female because they'd either like have a wife that would feel like it's weird if we're driving around in a car to area every day and stuff like that, or for whatever reason. So for a while, I would have said the biggest hindrance was not being able to find a mentor in my space because everybody was a male at the time. Now we've got more women. You can always reach out to women in other companies, just learn from them. You're building a community. So it's there, but at the time it was definitely that. Looking back though, I would have said I could have learned from pretty much anyone. And I've learned that, nowadays I can feel like I'm getting that mentor relationship just from books I'm reading, courses I'm taking, stuff like that, podcasts I'm listening to, So now that I'm looking at it that way, I have an abundance of mentorship, and I haven't had to seek out any particular person. I've just been able to kind of figure things out that way.
I love that. I'm definitely a type of person where I love having like the human person like walk me through like, hey, like go focus on this, like go and do that. But I had that battle for like literally probably a year and a half now. Like I'm mentoring and coaching people, but at night or, off the doors, I'm like telling my husband how like I need to find like a coach. Like I want to find like a female person that I will be able to like look up to. Like I want to do I want to level up and have someone like coach me and being able to do that. And I've just never found it. And it was finally like an epiphany. It's like us as women, we can't have the victim mindset. It's like if we see a problem, be the change. And so for me, I'm like, if I can't find a mentor yet, I'm going to continue to be the mentor that I'm hoping that I can find one day. And so I love that you shared that. For you, I honestly thought that you were going to list a few other things, but not enough of us bring up the fact that it's our own mindset that's going to be a hindrance for us, even on a male-dominated team. Like, it has nothing to do with the men, has nothing to do with the leaders, but the way that we perceive things on and off the doors on our teams.
And I love that you bring up the victim mindset, because I think just the whole principle of there being a glass ceiling above women.
Yeah.
We may be at a disadvantage in some areas. Like, I'm not arguing that at all. But I think so much of it is if I perceive there's a ceiling above me that I cannot surpass and all of my male peers can, I'm going to always be stuck in that type of position, you know? So I think a lot of it is deciding to not be hindered by feeling like you've got some disadvantage that you can't overcome. Like, your entire future, your career, what you're doing is all based on your ability to control it. And you've got full control. You just have to kind of own it.
I love that. So with some of the hindrances, what do you think are some advantages as far as like you particularly, whether on the door-to-door side or administrative side, that because you're a female, you've been able to just like rock? Like, what are some advantages for just being a woman in this space have you seen for yourself?
I love that question. I think a bit, so ladies on the doors, or if you're thinking about getting on the doors, you are at an advantage just because compared to your male peers, purely because you have this like less, people don't get in this defensive mode when you show up at their doorstep, you know, like you are welcoming and you're inviting. And even on the doors, like if I was, you know, Jersey's a tough market to knock in. So if someone was trying to
pest control there.
So you get it. So someone's trying to like shoo me off their porch and I could just be like, I'm so sorry. It's my first week at a brand new job. Would you mind if I just like practiced my pitch on you and then I'll get out of your hair? And they're like, sure, hun. Like whatever. What are you selling?
Yeah.
And they let me go. And then at the end of it, they're like, oh, that's like not that bad of an idea. And so I got plenty of appointments specifically out of just being like, wait, it's my first week, even if I'd been there for like 6 months.
Yeah.
So I think we are less assuming than our male peers. So you've got that advantage. We are organized, and most women kind of dominate their household too, because a lot of times we're the natural alpha when it comes to organization and being able to like see the whole field, if that makes sense.
No.
So like, I'm sure you're noticing this managing your team, like you are probably much better at having a broad scope over everything because you can see all of it, where men oftentimes will get laser focused on certain specific areas, which is, you know, helpful in their own ways. But us being able to kind of see that whole field and go where we need to helps us out a ton. So that's both, you know, helpful for the doors and growing into management through the doors and being internal as well.
And I'm sure like multitasking is probably like an A plus.
Yeah, any multitasking. Yep, organizational skills. Communication's a huge one too. We're moving into this era with work, I think, where we don't just care about all of those traditionally masculine traits of being, you know, very assertive and goal-driven. We also care about being excellent communicators and having empathy for each other. So that's a big one, too.
And sometimes, me being reminded a couple days ago, sometimes over-communication. But I would rather us over-communicate and people know where we're coming from than to underestimate or under-communicate and people just assume. But it's funny as you talk about, like, roles and like us being able to see like a broad view when it comes to door to door. Yes, I can like plan ahead. I can see like the big picture, but at home, I'm like, all my walls have just like fallen and I can't even like, I don't even know where the iron is, or I can't even like figure out like my kid's schedule. And my hubby he is the one at home that has like this broad picture of everything that's going to happen, like perfect at home. And I'm just like, when I come home, I'm like, I can like totally breathe and not have to think about one thing. And so I do think that that's a strength, but in my case, yes, on the work field it is, but at the home field, not so much. And so,
well, thank goodness for him.
No, but I do want to ask you as well, just because you've been in the door-to-door space, like how many years is this now? So you said 2015?
Yeah. What are we about to go into 22? So about 7 years.
Yeah, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I am 29.
Okay, so this is what I always like tell women too. I absolutely love older women. One, we seem to be a little bit more emotionally stable. But I also love my young women in the industry because they remind us to have fun. They remind us to just kind of like let things go. And so I love being able to have like a healthy balance. But what I've been having, a lot of people women in particular, who's reached out to me in this space, is they've been in door to door for maybe like 1 or 2 years or a few years, and they've probably hopped from one company to another company, but they've kind of like chosen solar. What would be like some of your advice is just kind of a vet for complacency, like how vets and being in a team where things are just like routine. They probably only have meetings like twice a month, or they kind of are just like, waiting for someone to push them. They know that there's success in the door-to-door space. They're kind of experienced reps, but kind of like in a funk of like, where am I? Like, what do I do? Like, how does one overcome that?
Oh my gosh. I think a big part of it would be being in touch with your own personal goals. Like what I see is if, someone's been at a company for a long time, they're regularly hitting the same kind of mediocre numbers, they're feeling burnt out all the time, it's because you're not passionate about what you're doing for whatever reason. Yeah. So if you see the value in getting passionate again about what you do in solar, I think it's figuring out how do you hit those personal goals, whether it's getting into leadership or hitting certain financial benchmarks, whatever that stuff is. Figure out how you can engage your leadership to kind of get the ball rolling with you at the company you're at. And in that rare case that you're in the wrong space, you just know that you're not in the culture that's going to align with your kind of values long term. Find the right space and stick there. Like, don't get up and move every time you find a hurdle in front of you. Yes. Don't keep, getting yourself knocked down, but just figure out like, what are you trying to accomplish and make sure you're in the right space to do it, and just put the blinders on and move forward.
No, I love that. And I'm super stoked for you being like an experienced rep, because that's who I kind of want to like hit with this episode. And just a lot of people are kind of like, well, where do I go? Like, I've kind of hit like my finances, or maybe I haven't. And it's just kind of like, what else is there? So what advice would you give to people who maybe aren't in like the same mindset as you and I, where it's just, we want to be leaders, we want to grow, we want to kind of like move up, whereas, they've been in this space for like a little bit. Like, what kind of goals would be attainable, or aside from like, hey, just restart or figure out what finances you want to do? Like, what can they do day to day that are going to be like simple tasks that'll help them to just
day to day. This also kind of depends on your big goal. And another one I didn't mention, but it kind of hits on all the different ways we get motivated. One way is being a person that people look up to. So if you recruit several people into your team, you may not be a manager, but if you're their recruiter, suddenly you have people that you care about, and your company might have a recruiting incentive or something. So that's a whole different way you can earn cash and, hit some goals and be remotivated, is helping those people out. But I would say, whether your goals are more on bringing new people into the space or just performing at a higher level yourself, breaking it down into daily goals. So when I was knocking doors, even on my worst possible days, I knew that if I went out and had 20 people say no to me, like I got enough of my pitch out where they could actually make a decision and say, I'm not interested. If I got 20 no's, I was definitely going to get at least one appointment. Yeah. So I kind of set that as my daily. And I knew, because at the time my company was like, if you don't hit 4 installs a month, then we cut you. Wow. So it was tough for me to break that down. That's like, okay, 1 install a week, but what does that mean? So I had to break it down into, okay, how many doors do I need to hit in order to hit those goals? So I said, okay, 20 no's in a day is going to get me enough yeses where I'm going to fill my pipeline. And then no matter how well I do, if I just have my worst possible conversion, I'm still going to be above that mark that I need to be.
I love that you said that, because I'm just like looking back at myself and just like some of the tips that you've given. Even if you don't want to move up, I feel like when we do bring a friend into the space, or when we invite someone, we feel like we need to perform a little better. We just invited someone to come. And so for some of you experienced women out there who, kind of feel like they're looking for structure or looking for ways to kind of like spark that fire again, like find an accountability partner, whether it means, having your leader like set specific goals that you need to hit, or just like Alex suggested, like bringing someone or recruiting or inviting a friend to your team, that's just going to make you want to be on top of your game as well. And then most importantly, definitely controlling the controllables. And I talk about this a lot, like with women. I used to look at our emotions as kind of like a hindrance and kind of as like failures. But a lot of times with our emotions, we can actually look at it as a positive, and knowing just how we're going to be able to relate with our customers, relate with like our reps, and relate with ourselves if we're able to understand like our true emotions. So just looking for some of the things that you're going to be able to control each day. I love that, but I kind of want to end with Alex, just kind of like, what are some tips that you can leave behind, since you are like the expert in sales culture? What are some tips that you would leave for someone like just some of us leaders in the door-to-door space to be able to help build that culture, not just for women, but just for all of us in general? Like, what are some little steps that we can do on our teams to be able to do that?
Yeah. So I think a beauty of us women is because we have more emotions that we might feel, or a deeper intensity to those. We're also equipped to develop a higher emotional intelligence, which is, your ability to control your emotions, identify your emotions, understand them, kind of harness them for good, not evil.
I love that. Yes. So not for evil.
So because of that, we also have the ability to be a lot more in tune with people's needs without having to have them explicitly say that type of thing. Oh. So us as leaders getting into this space, a big piece to building out your team and your culture is how you develop your new hire experience. So that is bringing people in through your recruiting process, your onboarding process, and your training up until the point where they're making some money, they're going to stick around for a little bit. A good stat that I know from that is if a solar rep hits 5 deals within their first 60 days, they're 80% more likely to stay with the company for 6 months or longer.
Wow. I love that.
So we've built a lot of stuff at True kind of based off of that, and I'd helped clients with that in the past as well. And a big part of, figuring out that experience is how do I shift that experience for different types of personalities? So, for example, if you're bringing people in and you've got this very extroverted personality, the way you're training them, the way you're approaching them is very extroverted. You might have someone that's going to be amazing at sales if you can just tap into them, but they're very introverted. So they hear your icebreaker at the door and they're like, I would never say that because it would feel so awkward.
Yeah.
So we have to use our ability to know people's emotions a little better to kind of pick out, who you're bringing on board that needs different types of attention, and try to use your other leadership team or other people in the office that might be able to connect with them because they resonate a little bit more with that person.
I like that. So as far as like retaining, so say that they come and do those things, like what advice that you have for like after they are with the company, say that they are with them for like 6 months or whatnot, like what are some things that we can do, whether it's for me, I guess like right now it's like an off season, and prepping for people to come back next summer. What are some things that people can do? And like, well, I don't even like to call this off season anymore. I love Coda's term for training season.
Nice.
Or like prep season. But in this like time of winter when a lot of people aren't just like knocking a ton, what are some things that you would suggest to be able to keep the retention up with reps?
So I think this is a good time for building community and personal development. So like we were just talking about 75 hard before we hopped on here, but like you could do little things, like you could have, some type of challenge with your team. And it's all based on, what are the goals of that group. But if everybody's looking to personally develop by building better routines or wants to get in better physical shape or something, if you build that little community with your team by saying, look, we're all going to start 75 hard, or we're all going to do some crazy challenge together, and you build something off of that. Now people are they're struggling and having these hard times, but they're leaning on each other. Yeah. So you build this level of loyalty and community that you're not going to have an opportunity to do as much during the on season because you're so busy hitting numbers, hitting goals. So this is the time for you guys to like reflect on what you've done well, how to get better, and how you can incorporate your team and the support system you have in order to hit those goals.
I love that. That was definitely a question for me because I'm like, in this all new phase of actually enjoying managing. And now I'm like, well, what am I going to be doing in this off season to build this community and whatnot? So I'm definitely going to write some things down and ask for some advice on like what should we do to be able to like build culture. And so thanks for sharing that. And so for those of you out there who listen to this episode, you know, if you're wanting advice from a seasoned female reps on culture or on how to get out of complacency or on how to be able to move up on the administrative side, reach out to Alex and share with us your Instagram page or how people can reach out to you.
Yeah, so people can find me. My Instagram handle is I am Alexandra Hall. So it's me really leaning into that
I love
married
it.
name. I've also got weare.soul sisters, short for soliciting sisters, which is a page I'm starting to build for kind of the female community we all want to bring to door to door. And I've got some mentees, I guess, both on the doors side and also kind of on support team side. So for the right person or the right, business owner that wants some consulting, I've got some time here or there to help out.
Yeah, I might even be one of those because I'm always looking for ways to do better. So thanks for coming, and thanks for those of you who tuned in this week, and we'll plan to see you next Sunday or in 2 Sundays.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for taking the time to tune in. If I've added any kind of value to your thoughts on knocking doors, please share this podcast with another female rep. Until next time, know that you are capable, you are valued, and most importantly, you are enough.